Okay, so I also recently read the book called The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. It was a book I found on Amazon. I read the synopsis and I thought it sounded good, so I ordered it. So it is another dual timeline. I think it's women's literature. I'm not quite sure, but I wouldn't classify it as romance, definitely. So literature or women's literature, something like that. And so you have present day. On the present timeline, you have Caroline, who goes to London. She is supposed to go to London for her 10-year anniversary, wedding anniversary with her husband. And of course, before they were set to leave, she finds out he was cheating on her with someone that he works with. So she decides, I need some space from you. I need to get out of here, and I'm gonna go to London without you. You stay here. So on her first day, instead of going on the tours and everything that they had planned, she ends up going mudlarking, which is when you go to the banks of the river in London, and while the tide is low, skim the banks of the river for pieces of pottery, old pipes, things like that, things that get stirred up um, from deep in the river to be put onto the sand or mud, I guess, um, when they when it reaches high tide. You can find a lot of really interesting things apparently. And so she finds a glass vial with an etching of a bear on it. And the man who is running this tour says that he thinks it's from an apothecary from 1800s era, possibly. So she was planning on going to grad school in London to be a history researcher. So now she's going to use she's going to do what she wanted to do, and she's going to start researching this file and trying to find the history behind it. Now, on the history timeline, you have Nella, and she is the owner of the apothecary. So when we first meet Nella, she is working with her mother in this apothecary to help women. So they brew herbs and other things, beetles, things like that, to help women with their ailments. Her mother dies, and in her heartache, she's trying to run this shop and she meets this man who starts helping her. Well, he ends up betraying her, and she is so heartbroken at this point with his betrayal that she decides to, because I don't think I can actually say this, so I'm gonna, you know what I mean by that. And in doing that, the entire trajectory of the apothecary changes to now when women need someone because they betrayed them. It does have to be a man, though. It does have to be a man. They do not harm women. She does not harm women, and it has to be a man who has betrayed the woman in some way, shape, or form. So when they're looking to that, they go to her shop and she gives them some herbs or a potion or something that they can use. And you also meet this side character, Eliza, who goes to the apothecary for her mistress to grab the thing that's going to off the husband. And in doing so, she meets Nella, and it actually changes their lives for, I'm not going to say good, because it's really, I will say the ending is very open to how you want to, what do you think happened type thing. Yes, you kind of find out what happens with Eliza, but what happens with Nella is kind of left to the reader's imagination, and that's all I'll say about that. But there's a lot of turmoil that happens. They're kind of Nella is kind of found out in a way, so she's trying to protect herself and is also trying to say, no, Eliza, you don't want to be a part of this, but she ends up getting a part of it anyway. So you have all that happening in the past while Caroline is trying to find the history in the future. Or in the present, I should say, not future, but in the present. And she actually does find where the apothecary was originally located, and she finds the book where Nella has written, the person who is and what did it and all that stuff. So overall, I thought it was good. As I said, the ending is kind of left a little bit open. You don't have an epilogue that's like, and this happens, and they all live happily ever after. It is more open to interpretation. I think what would be really kind of interesting if there was like a follow-up novel to get to see what happens to Caroline as she moves on with her lives, because you don't get a full answer of what she decides to do about the husband. He does pop up into London, and there's some fun stuff that happens there. It's like, oh my god, why? Why would that happen? I don't want to give away spoilers, so I didn't feel like I got an answer. Maybe I need to reread it, but I didn't feel like I got an answer about what she ended up deciding to do with the husband. So there are parts of the ending that are open to the reader imagination, to my understanding. But I could just need to read it again. But I think it would be, if it is more open, just knowing me, like, I like my endings and nicely wrapped up in a bow. So I would like to have maybe a second novel, and she could find something else to find, to get more, to find the history of and things that way. But I mean, overall, it was a good book. So that's my reading. So happy reading.